My name is Wihan and I'm a real estate agent and investor currently residing in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm filming this video in April 2020, and to be fair, there's a lot happening in the world at the moment, with the most pressing being the worldwide pandemic. As a result, you may be feeling a bit dismayed. Maybe you were ready to start your real estate journey in 2020, and then the year just came and threw a curveball straight at your face. But I'm bringing you some good news, and that is that the principles that I'll be discussing in this video is timeless and, more importantly, crisis-proof. In fact, you might be able to apply this even more effectively in an upcoming recession, if that is in fact where the world is heading. So with that being said, here is my complete guide on how to start your real estate journey. Step number one, start early. And what I mean with early is right now. It doesn't matter whether you're 18, 25, or knocking on 43. As with most investment strategies, real estate grows more powerful with the introduction of time. So the quicker you can get going, the better it'll be for you in the long term. Over time, your equity will be able to build, and if you bought correctly, your property value will also rise. And with this accumulation, you will be able to more easily slowly start to snowball into more property, and with that, the start of your real estate empire. Of course, your strategy for investing also plays a massive role in how exactly you will go about this. And one of the strategies that I'll recommend for new investors, and one that also incidentally benefits the most from time that passes, is something that we call buy and hold. But for step one, start early. There's no time like the present, and that's nowhere more true than in real estate. Step number two, credit score. Now, this is something that you can start working on immediately, and it's a very important factor. You can be dead broke with no money to your name, but this is something that you can start working on immediately and start the process of either building up or improving depending on where you are along this road. This is definitely something that is not to be overlooked, because this is one of the main things that banks and other lenders will look at when they finally start to determine how much you actually can apply for, and what's the size of the bond that you will be able to get. You can earn a ton of money in reliable income, but if the banks flag you as being risky on paper, this will affect the bottom line of how much they will be willing to lend you, if anything at all. On the flip side, if you're quite young now and you haven't really had a chance to build up your credit record, that is also something that needs to be looked at. Maybe go to the shops, go open a clothing account or something else that you can make use of, and slowly start purchasing small amounts every month and make sure to pay it off like clockwork. And this way, you will slowly be building up a record as a reliable payer, and this will benefit you a lot down the road. Now, if at this point in time you find that your credit score is in a bit of trouble, this is something that you're definitely going to have to rectify. And there's a lot of things that you can actually do to fix this. Going into this is not really in the scope of this video, but comment below if you maybe want me to chat about this in the future at some point. Step number three, make money and then save it. Now, this might seem a bit obvious, but you need money to make money. And this doesn't change when it comes to real estate. So you're going to need a reliable source of income to really start your real estate journey effectively. And whether this is, finding a 9-to-5 job, or maybe to start your own business venture, that'll be up to you. I myself started as an English teacher in Korea, and I actually bought my first investment property while I was living abroad there, and I used the money that I was slowly saving up there every month to start off that initial investment. When I finally came back to South Africa, I decided to just go head on into real estate, and I started to become an agent. I started the process of becoming an agent, and one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is not only so that I can learn a lot more about real estate and therefore become a better investor, but also with as a real estate agent, you don't have any ceiling in terms of your earnings. So that would allow me to make more money and then take that again and move it back into and reinvesting it into real estate. Now, unfortunately, I can't help you find that reliable source of income for yourself. So my suggestion would be to sit down and maybe sketch out a plan of exactly how you will go about doing that, maybe what you want to do, and then finally how you will be able to achieve that. So congratulations, you found your dream job, or maybe you started a small little business venture when you identified a gap in the market somewhere, and now you are ready and back on track to continue your journey. Regardless, you're only halfway through step 3 now, and arguably now we're getting to the more important part, and that is actually saving some of that income that you are now generating. So I urge you strongly not to be like over 69% of the US population and save less than 10% of their annual income. So stop buying hazelnut lattes. I know they're delicious, but so is passive income from your rental properties. Step number 4, get pre-qualified. The next step to do is to get yourself pre-qualified so that you actually know what you will be able to afford. This can be done either at individual banks, or it can be done by approaching a home loan company or a mortgage broker that will kind of approach these banks on your behalf. Now, I recommend using the last option because these mortgage brokers will not only be able to approach multiple banks on your behalf, but they will also be able to kind of negotiate the best possible rate on your behalf, by approaching these banks. Plus, they usually also don't cost you anything. So it's an amazing service that is absolutely free to you, and I really recommend that you take advantage of it. Getting a pre-qualification is extremely important as it allows you to find out exactly what you are able to afford. And there's no point going out shopping, finding the perfect place, falling in love with it, just to find out that you can't afford it. Additionally, a pre-qualification is also a very big plus to have once you actually start the process of looking for property, as it not only tells agents and sellers that you are a serious buyer, but it also lets them know that you won't be wasting their time. Your real estate strategy. Now we start getting to the fun stuff. So now that you're finally pre-qualified, that means you can finally start filling out OTPs and just start chucking it at different properties. Isn't that right? Unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. First, we need to identify a suitable strategy for yourself, as I made mention of in step number 1. Some of these include, but are not limited to, buy and hold, flipping, wholesaling, house hacking, and the BRRRR strategy. Now, unfortunately, going into depth on all of these strategies is a little bit beyond the scope of this specific video. But if you do want me to talk a bit more about any of those specifically, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll make sure to kind of follow that up in the future. But for now, we're just going to quickly talk about the strategy that I've been advocating, and that is buy and hold. Now, buy and hold is a strategy that is probably the most commonly used in real estate investing. And the reason for that, first of all, it's very simple, and second of all, it definitely works. So to simplify the strategy for you quickly, step number 1, find an affordable property. Step number 2, buy it. Step number 3, find a tenant for it and place the tenant inside. Step number 4, let the tenants rent cover your bond, any other expenses that you might have. And if you're lucky and in the right market, the property would actually probably cash flow a bit as well, which means you will be making a profit out of it. So this is of course a bit of a simplified version of the strategy as a whole, but those are the basic kind of fundamental steps to it. I'll definitely make a future video where I can give a bit more time to it and break it down in a bit more detail. So if you want, smash that like button and give me an indication of whether you would want to see that in the future. But the idea behind the strategy is obviously not just to buy one property, but to buy that one property, start paying it off, eventually use that equity to kind of equity and cash flow to move into a second property, and then slowly start this snowballing effect. And over the course of a few years, you can have multiple properties and have your existing properties kind of paying them off as time goes by. So step number 7 is researching areas to invest in. And this is fairly important, as a lot of the factors that we kind of rely on as property investors are things such as the property's price going up over time, and those kind of things. And it's important to have a look at that and to kind of try and figure out what will be good areas to buy in that will allow for rent increases over time, allow for your property to grow in value. So for that reason, it's extremely important to get very familiar with the areas that you think might be worth it to invest in, and to double and maybe even triple check them before you finally pull that trigger. So what I usually suggest is to look at areas that have seen a lot of growth, that have seen a lot of increases in their property prices, very sought after areas essentially, and have a look at the areas around that, as your budget might not really allow you to buy in one of those more expensive areas, and often it doesn't even make kind of economic sense even if you had the money to do that. But the hidden jewels are usually found in the surrounding areas, properties and areas that are not quite as good as those yet, but that as a result has the potential to kind of grow over time. So it's extremely important to have a look at prospective areas and find an area that's kind of aligned with whatever your investment strategy is at the moment. So whether that is investing in student housing, obviously then you'll need to be near some kind of a school or a university or something along those lines. Or if you are a buy and hold investor, maybe focusing on apartments or condos, as they call it in America, you'll want to be in an area that will gradually appreciate as time goes on, and therefore you get that extra value add on top of your rent and the usual sources of income that you get from property. But before you end up buying in an area, it's very important to make yourself very familiar with it. It's usually best to go there yourself, boots on the ground, and start researching so you know more about the area. What developments are happening there at the moment, or what might be happening in the future? Where are the shops? Where are the kind of social places, like the restaurants and the bars and the clubs and those kind of things? Are there good access to public transport? That's always good. People need a way to get to work, for instance. These are all things that you can kind of look at and determine the viability of an area. And then finally, you need to check the rent prices. Does the numbers make sense? I'll touch more on how to do this maybe in a future video, breaking down the numbers for potential investment properties. But be very familiar with the rent. How much has it gone up in the last 10 years? Is it growing? Is it standing still? Are properties in the area renting out quickly, or are they standing empty for a long time? These are important things to consider, as these are the issues you're going to have to deal with, once you buy the property and you start leasing it out. So congratulations, you ticked off steps 1 to 7, and you're finally ready to pull the trigger and buy your first investment property. So usually it's worth it to build a good relationship with an agent that's really an expert in that area. Not only will they be able to give a lot of additional value in terms of area knowledge that you as a new buyer or someone that's not very familiar with the area might not have, intrinsically, but they'll also be able to assist you with the amount of knowledge they have on current listings, what properties have been standing for a while, what nuances in the area there might be that you might not be familiar with. It's a lot of added value that an agent can bring you. So while you're securing this agent, or maybe you've done that already, the next step would be to go and look through each and every property in the area that kind of fits your specifications. So let's say you are in the market for 2-bedroom apartments. Go and have a look on the internet at each and every 2-bedroom apartment that's on the market, that's within your budget and that fits your specific specifications. Go to show houses, go to private showings, go see as many properties within your specification as possible, and really familiarize yourself with all the properties in the area. It's also usually quite a good idea to go talk to the landlords, owners, tenants, if it's a property being tenanted out. Talk to them. What do they like about the area? What don't they like about the area? It's amazing what you'll be able to, what insights you'll be able to find through just this little bit of research that you can do as you just do viewings and showings essentially. So after you've seen every conceivable property in the area, Start by making a list of the top 5 properties that you think are the closest, either being the best deal or that fits your specifications the best. So once you've made that list of the top 5 properties, now we're finally getting to the fun part of starting to submit offers. So usually along with the assistance of your agent, you'll start submitting offers to each of those properties, and my suggestion is to usually put in a good offer that is not, going to be insulting, but something that's usually below the asking price. And by now you've crunched the numbers, you know what makes sense, you know what will be your max. So congratulations, one of your sellers have finally accepted your great deal that you offered them, and congratulations, you just bought your first of hopefully many rental properties to come. Now it'll just be a matter of finalizing the paperwork. That'll be up to your banks and your mortgage broker. A transfer to your name will happen within 1 to 3 months, and then a property will officially be yours, and it'll be ready for step number 10. The final step is to get the property ready so you can start earning an income from it. If you were smart up until this point, you got a good deal on a property that probably looked like it needed a little bit of work done on it, and your next step will be to just fix up these few small cosmetic changes, and this will be your first opportunity to put some new equity into your new investment. Usually we call this sweat equity, and it's when you kind of fix it up, add a bit of value into maybe just modernizing it a little bit or whatever needs to be done. So once you're done with this, the property should probably already be worth a bit more than what you bought it for, and you're already starting to gain in your investment. So after this, you're going to approach your agent that you already have, and usually they'll be able to assist you in getting you qualified tenants that can afford your place and that'll be able to pay your rent without any issues. So guys, to summarize the video, buy an undervalued home, buy it within an area that's poised to rise in value, fix it up, put a little bit of immediate equity in there if you can, and lastly, get some tenants that's going to cover your bond, cover your expenses, and allow you to have a cash flowing property that will generate you passive income as the years go by. Guys, thank you so much for those of you that stick around towards the end. I really appreciate it. This is my first ever video that I did like this, so it took quite a bit of time, but hopefully it brought some value to you, and hopefully I addressed some questions that you might have had. If I assisted you in any way, please consider dropping me a like and a subscribe. I have plans to bring a lot more videos like this in the future. If there's any part of this video that you would like some more information on, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and make a video maybe even addressing that subject in a bit more detail. But I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and stay safe out there.